We are going to discuss what is called a compassionate transfer. And so we've spurred on this discussion because this has been asked about and has been brought up. So we feel like we should talk about it. This is something that we are familiar with and that I actually have personally talked, my husband and I have personally talked with our doctor about. So we felt like we should do a little bit more research into it and just kind of share what it is, if it's something that you're not familiar with. And again, our opinions and thoughts on it, take it or leave it.
Compassionate transfer would be an option for someone with excess embryos. If they don't want to dispose of those embryos, they could have those embryos transferred at a less fertile time.
So my husband and I actually, just in discussing options with our doctor, probably, I don't know, this has probably been about 2 years now, she brought up a compassionate transfer and shared with us what it meant. And she shared that in our clinic, they would transfer an embryo about 2 days after your most fertile point of when they would typically like to transfer an embryo. You can choose whether or not you would want to use any medication with that embryo. That's your choice. But it basically decreases the likelihood of your body being perfectly able to take on that embryo. And also, when we brought that up, like, oh, would you just put the embryo in at any time? And she was like, no, we wouldn't do that because that's just essentially the same as disposing of it. So and the clinic isn't ethically or morally backed on Christian principles or following Christian morals in any way. And even she was able to say it would not be ethical of me to just put an embryo in your body whenever you felt like it. So again, it was just something that they presented to us. And at the time we just took in the information like we do everything else.
Yeah. You're not there yet.
We're not there and we still have embryos to use. And so it was one of those like, okay, disposing and adoption and compassionate transfer, just kind of laying everything out on the table that they do. So, so it was interesting to hear her perspective and to talk through the fact that there is still a likelihood of that embryo working. It decreased, I think, by like 25%. I mean, it was significant, but still.
It doesn't take it down to zero.
It doesn't take it down to zero. It's something that would like look different in different practices with different doctors across different fertility clinics. I think it's just something you would have to talk to your doctor about and see how they do it and see if it aligns, because I think that someone who's saying they would put an embryo in at any point in the cycle is obviously like, that embryo is not going to work. You're just disposing of it versus we're going to do it a day or two later. Those feel very different to me.
Yeah.
I can get on board with one more than I can the other, obviously. And so I think you would have to talk to your clinic and your doctor and say, do you do this? What does it look like? How do you feel about it? What is your process? Because I think that that's probably something that really varies.